Good afternoon, sports fans, and welcome back to another edition of the Flop Warning here at Indiana University. My name is Elias Corey. I'll be your host today. I'm joined by special guest, Ant Wright. We're really excited to have you here today, Ant. And then also our usual guests, we've got Cole Nobby, Josh Bodie, and Jack Linder just off camera doing our production for today. Really glad you guys are all here. And for our new listeners who maybe aren't super familiar with what you do, would you like to just give everybody a quick introduction?
Yeah, I cover a lot of the Big Ten, former Division I player, and I do a lot of content, whether it's video, audio, and I have a whole network of websites. One of them includes HoosierIllustrated.com. So I'm pretty hip on what's going on and what's happening in the Hoosier world. So it's So yeah, like I do a whole bunch of stuff. YouTube, Twitter, I dabble in TikTok every now and then, but it's fun. It's interesting.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we are super stoked to have you with us today. And I know Josh had a pretty interesting question. I'll go ahead and let him throw that out first.
Yeah, so first question I got for you, obviously you do a lot with the Big Ten, and we're here at Indiana. I'm curious, so the Big Ten has been big players in the transfer portal so far in this offseason with 4 top 10 classes. Michigan got a transfer like 5 minutes before we went on air today. Michigan's in that top tier of the Big Ten with transfers with Indiana, Illinois, and Ohio State. I'm curious, who do you think has the most impressive transfer class so far in the Big Ten?
I would say I don't know, Michigan and Indiana are right there for sure. I mean, they're right there for sure. And the most important part about how the roster is kind of adding up is like the acquisitions make sense. I think that's the most important thing more than anything else is not only are these teams getting decent players, they're also getting teams where they're also getting guys that fit what they're trying to do. And when it comes to Michigan, they have a huge turnover, but they're getting a lot of shooting, they're getting a lot of skill guys, and they're getting a good mix of big guards. When it comes to Indiana, I think the one thing that they were missing last year was guard play, literally any sort of guard play. And they've addressed those needs. And people are going to be like, well, they're going to still play big inside out. Like, that doesn't matter when you won 19 games with no guards, really. And I think if that's your floor, you're in a pretty decent situation. They could have, really struggled and won like 12 games or 11 games. We're probably having a different conversation. Probably a new coach. Not sure if they would have went with them another year, but the fact that your starting point guard is unhealthy for a great deal and couldn't stop punching people in the nether regions, and then you got Gabe Cubs, who had to get thrown into the fire early, and you had Trey Galloway playing out of position. After losing an NBA player like Hochefino, the 1 and the 2 was just non-existent all year long. And they tried to give CJ Gunn some minutes, and he was good defensively, but had a really hard time really shooting and being consistent. So, them being able to go out and literally address the backcourt with, Rice and Carlisle. Rice had an incredible year last year, especially after his story of why he had to redshirt, and then what Carlisle did, in his first year playing, a limited amount of games, and his first game was, I think, against Idaho. Then it went right into Pac-12. Like, he didn't have a multitude of bye games to get his feet wet. It went right from Idaho into, hey, it's time to hoop. And he had one of the better 6-7 game stretches that we've seen from a first-year player. You're a pretty good ball player if you could be named AP National Player of the Week as a true freshman. And if that's the kind of juice that you have, seeing someone like that in their second year due to a sophomore leap, I think you're in a really good spot. So being able to have those two guys there, along with Cups, right, in year two, along with Anthony Leal, who was almost a glue towards the end of last season in terms of just doing the little things, and a leader like Trey Galloway, like we saw him call timeout to cuss people out. I mean, if you have that type of leadership with your core guards, and then you're bringing in talent on top of that, you're in a really good spot. And then you got McKenzie, who I thought was out of position for a lot of last year at the 3, but getting him back to not only not portal, but not even put his name in for the draft, knowing that he's going to be there. He played so well the last couple months, where he wasn't just trying to be this finesse shooter. Like, he was grinding. He was taking smaller guys off the dribble. He was using his rebounding. And my only question is, like, is there going to be too many people up at the top? Mm-hmm. How you going to work that out? And there needs to be an hierarchy, and you can't have 5 kings. You have to have some dudes got to take a step back and understand whose team it is. But we're in April, so they got all summer to figure that out, and we'll see next year. Sorry, I ramble a lot. If you're listening, I talk a lot. But yeah, that's where I'm at.
Yeah, you mentioned how the roster construction looks a lot cleaner than it did last year, or at least at this point. Indiana still has 4 more scholarship roster spots that they have open. Yeah, they still have 4 more or 3 more. They have 3 more,
yeah.
not 4 more. They have
more.
3 more
Okay.
that they can still that are still open. What do you think they need to do with those 3 spots to really round out the rest of the roster?
I would like them to go out and get they need a big wing defender, big time wing defender. They need a big time shooter, like a shooting specialist that could be like a 3. Hashtag Luke Goody just went to the portal 20 minutes ago. And then you need a backup 5, I think. When honestly, I think you need a backup 5, because I think Renew should be the 5, honestly. Backing up Ballo. I think having a smaller lineup out there with him, and then Mbako, and then running with 3 really good guards. That should be a lot of fun to watch. But yeah, definitely get a backup big who could challenge Renew for that backup center job, and then big wing shooter, and then a really good versatile defender on the perimeter.
And looking at as you're a Michigan guy, they've kind of been the topic of conversation the past couple of years with really good basketball players that want to go there, but the school doesn't allow them to go there. What are your thoughts on, Tim went from Terrence Shannon to Caleb Love to now John L. Davis. What are your thoughts on that whole situation right there with them not letting them in school at all?
It is what it is. You have guys who didn't graduate. I don't put Caleb Love or Terrence Shannon Jr. on them. I put that on the school. They're not going to allow more than, I think, 60 credits in or something like that. And if that's the case, then you're just not going to be eligible. Like, you could transfer in, that's fine. You're not going to play basketball there, but you could come go to class if you want to and be a manager, I guess. But but no, like it does hurt from a standpoint of you have you have both Caleb and Terrence Shannon. They both become all league, all American guys who were going to play at Michigan, but couldn't get in, right? John L. Davis, very, very likely he becomes an All-American next year if, wherever he goes, right? Or at minimum, all league wherever he decides to go. And, that's just an academic thing. That's a thing with Michigan saying how, you're not just going to go somewhere else for 3 years and put a name on your degree from Michigan just because you take, 2 semesters worth of classes, which I do understand and I do get, but I do think it's funny how how they're very student athlete this, student athlete that, when there's a clear difference in how both are treated. So like the Michigan degree is not going to become any lighter just because a couple guys want to come in and win some sport games. You know what I mean? But yeah, it sucks. But John L. Davis had 4 years to graduate, and he didn't do that. So Caleb Love and Terrence Shannon, they had 3. You don't really expect them to graduate in 3. But you not only have 4 years to graduate, it's not like a normal student. Like these guys spend summers on campus. They're taking classes over the summer, and they have a little bit of a lighter load during the year. Like maybe not these 16 credit, semesters, but 13 is pretty what they usually do, around 13, give or take 1. And you should have credits to graduate, or be able to graduate that spring at minimum.
For sure. No, I think that you make a lot of really good points there. And I guess, and with regards to the portal, you being a former player, I think you can offer a really unique perspective on sort of how the NIL landscape has made the portal landscape so much more exciting, more, juiced during this off season. And I want to know your perspective. Do you think the portal, needs to be regulated? Do you think it took off too quickly? And do you think there needs to be a way to incentivize players staying at their original schools?
Yeah, so the NCAA completely botched this entire thing. Like they were complete ass. Like it is ridiculous what they did, and they're just sitting back like, "Ooh, well, you asked for this." No, like nobody asked for this. Like not only did they do NIL, but they did no sitting out. Separately, okay, maybe we can figure things out. Together, come on, bro. This is like Mewtwo against Bulbasaur. Like, come on, bro. Like, what are we doing here? Like it's just a crazy combination of power given to the athletes. Now that's cool. I'm all for it. But man, from a fan, I can see why fans are irritated, because you're not going to be able to come in and see a freshman struggle and turn into an all-league player when they're a senior. Like that's going to be a unicorn from now on, right? But now there's tampering going all over the place, bro. It's
Sure.
insane. It's insane the amount of tampering that's going on. When I got Walter from Dollar General, who knows that AJ Store was transferring back in February, there's something wrong. Like it's not even just insiders or people who pay attention. Like we're talking about random people. Like random people are knowing that guys are going to leave. And that's weird. Like, is that not weird to you? Knowing that like there's a team out there that's playing in the NCAA tournament, and you're like, yo, this is his last game, and he's a sophomore, and they're not going to the league. Like, man, this is their last game at Wisconsin. Wonder where they end up next year. We're in a wild place, man. It should be regulated 100%. We should be having contracts. I don't know why we have these collectives. Like, bro, just let the school do what they do. Sign someone to 2 years. Hey, you want to renegotiate after 2? We renegotiate after 2. And then you have to have some incentive to stay. There's no incentive right now. If anything, you're doing yourself a disservice by staying a lot of times, because whatever you got to go there initially, someone's going to come in who's lower on the chart than you, but they're getting paid a little bit more than you are. You know what I mean? So
Absolutely.
If someone like Hunter Dickinson can get around $1 million to go to Kansas, right? And then you got Jeremy Roach getting more than that. Come on, bro. You telling me Jeremy Roach is – come on. Like, Hunter right now is getting Chucky Hepburn Louisville numbers. Like, you tell me Chucky and Hunter are the same person? Absolutely not. So it's the whole thing sucks. It's broken. And there's some adults who are taking advantage of these younger guys. You have these agencies popping up out of nowhere, who are taking like 30% 30% of NIL, if they get paid that NIL, whatever they agreed on, like, hey, I got you 300K. Like, they're just throwing out these random numbers. Not everybody's paying 300K. Like, you may have thought 300K, but you got to do X. You got to do X, Y, Z on a list. Hey, if you only do half of that, man, shoot, here's 5 bands. Enjoy it. You know what I mean? So there's got to be regulation. There's, these kids need protection as much as these schools do and these coaches. And more contracts, more transparency, and the tampering is crazy. And you're not going to really be able to stop that, honestly, because there's so many back channeling. Like, dude, Javian McCollum, he ended up transferring, right? He transferred. I knew in 3 hours where he was going. 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 days later, he puts out a list of 20 schools.
Yeah, I mean, you had the guy from Pepperdine who was like in the portal 5 minutes after the handshake line, and was he the same guy that committed to Alabama
He
they were
committed
still
to
in March
Alabama
Madness?
like the next week, and Alabama was playing.
He may have liked their logo during the whole, like, man, I like that. I want to play there. But yeah, like, and then the dude commits to Georgia Tech like 5 days later. When I said he was going to Georgia Tech after 3 hours, puts out a list of like 20 schools, goes on all these BS visits. He ends up going to where it said he was going. Like, there's so much back channeling going on. And you know what? If the NCAA is not gonna do anything about it, then why not? What? It's the purge out here, bro. It's the purge. Like, there are no rules. There are no rules. Except it's not 24 hours, it's 24/7.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think we just talked on the show last week. It's gotten way too out of control. People, they went from 0 to 100 in NIL and transfer portal immediately. You kind of touched on it, but where do you see college basketball in 5-10 years? I mean, we're all sitting here at 21 years old. If we're covering college basketball in 10 years, how wild do you see it getting? Or do you think there's a way they can put this all back together like college sports are kind of supposed to be?
I don't know, but if it stays wild, I'm benefiting off of it in some shape. It's ridiculous. Like, my kid gets up now at 6 a.m. and does dribbling drills and shoots the ball outside all by himself. He's 4 years old.
Has he committed?
No, he's not committed, but he's like 100th percentile in everything. Like, he's like 4.5 feet. He's a unit. He's like mini Paolo Banchero over here. No, but it's gonna get worse. It's gonna get scarier. It's gonna get worse unless there's some type of pullback. I can't wait to see how it is in the next couple of years, though, because this was the last COVID senior year.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see how closer we get to normal after this. We're not going to have any more 5th year, 6th year guys, 7th, 8th year guys. You'll see a couple stragglers here and there, but it's not going to be like it is now, where everybody has that. So this was that last class for that. I'm excited about that. And teams are going to have to go back to recruiting high school guys again. Guys are going to have to get back in the gym. Guys are going to have to still, go back to the JUCO route and look for guys internationally and look for guys. I think recruiting right now is pretty easy. Recruiting is as good as your resources are, and that's not how it should be, unfortunately.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, on the subject of recruiting, if your son can shoot better than 65% from the free throw line, I don't know if I can speak for Mike Woodson, but I think we've got a spot for him here in Wilmington.
He just wants to play Roblox half the time, so I don't know if Woodson.
Yeah, I can take the next one. So last year's transfer portal obviously had some big name players. You had a first team All American in Connect, second team in Dickinson, third team in Caleb Love. This year, it seems like there might not be that headline guy. Do you see anyone with that type of potential, or is it going to be more of just like all league type players this year?
If you guys follow my stuff, I am obsessed with Ryan Conwell. I'm obsessed with Ryan Conwell. I don't know what the dynamic is going to be. I don't see the National Player of the Year type stuff. But I think he's going to be really good. And if he's going to Xavier, I mean, man, I think he's really, really good. He's really, really good. I think if you're a Big Ten team who needed a backcourt guy and you didn't reach out to him, I think you missed out big time this year, big time. And I'm talking about the difference between being a first weekend team or NIT or Final Four team or a Sweet 16. Like I think he's that good. The first time I saw him play, he had a shitty game, but I couldn't stop watching him play. I was like, yo, this guy's got something to him. Just the way that he moves and he carries himself and his confidence, the way that he attacks at all levels. I'm like, I'm gonna watch him and I'm gonna wait till like he has a good, like I'm gonna box score watch because I can't watch Indiana State games all that much. But I'm gonna wait till he has one of those good games, high efficient games, because I want to go watch and see what that looks like. But I watched a bad game for the first time of his, and I was like, yo, this kid is nice. He's not playing very well, but he's got it. He's definitely got it. But I'm a big Ryan Conwell guy. 24/7 didn't even have him in the top 100. And I hit up Brandon. I was like, yo, what are you doing?
Yeah.
I'm like, yo, what are you doing, bro? Like I can't imagine 100 dudes better than Ryan Conwell, man. I just can't. I'm sorry. But yeah, I just don't see it. Maybe Jonell, if he goes to the right situation, I think he's got a little bit to him. Yeah, you just don't see it. Well, like there wasn't much star power last year, right? There wasn't, like, you could see it in the NBA draft, like in this upcoming draft, there's no juice. Like, all respect to Reed Shepherd, but top 5, bro. Like, what are we doing? I'm looking at these Euro guys going top 5. I'm like, yo, what is this, bro? Like, is this the why? Like, come on, man. Like, this is crazy. Like, check your timeline. There's like no talk of the draft. There's none. Combine comes up next month, and I'm asleep. I'm so asleep. And I'm like, yo, this is like the least juiced draft I've ever seen in my life. It's so bad. If you're a marginal prospect, you could go first round this year. Like Coleman Hawkins could go first round this year if he tests decent. Guys who usually go like mid second, late second, you can go first this year. It's amazing. It's truly amazing.
Yeah, on the subject of the NBA draft, this is something that we've sort of disputed a lot on the show this year. If you're an NBA GM, where are you drafting Zach Edey?
Zach Edey? In this draft, I honestly couldn't see myself giving him first round money. I couldn't see myself doing a 2-way. I think guaranteed money for 2 years, second year option. I would do second round. I would do that.
Sorry, go ahead.
No. Because I know that there are draft people who put stuff out that I know for a fact that they're getting paid to do that. And you have to weed through a bunch of the bullshit sometimes, because there's some people out there who are putting stuff and agencies are paying them to put it. And we're talking about big draft people. I'm not talking about these little dudes. I'm talking about big draft people with heavy names and who are doing things as favors to agencies. And if you slip me $5K, tell me what you want me to say. You know what I mean? I'll say whatever. Oh, you want to go first? Shit. First, number 1 overall, 5'7" power forward from Grace Christian Academy. You know, whatever you want me to say. Like, I will say it for 5 racks. You know, I got bills to pay. I live in the DMV. Bills are ridiculous out here. But no. And I don't see him going anywhere better than late first. If my money was on it, he would go somewhere in the 30s to low 40s, anywhere from early to mid second round. But I could see a team taking a shot 28, 29. I think you're going to start, you know, you shouldn't be surprised anything past like 26 or 27. You shouldn't be surprised. If he gets that far, that means that he's going to a pretty good situation, and they're like, hey, we need someone who could probably play right away. It's not about a ceiling, it's about, can he help us for 8 to 12 minutes right now? And if your answer is yes, that's the one who you can go out and get right away. But if I'm a GM, guaranteed money, 2 years, second year option, probably team option on that. Give him like $1.5 million. First year, second year, around the same. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, I think the best way I can sort of, I don't come from a ton of, background in basketball, obviously not nearly as much as you, but I think the best way I can sort of analyze Zach Edey's potential with a team is ask you, have you ever watched the movie Grown Ups 1?
Grown Ups
1, yeah.
Y'all are gonna hate me. I hate Chris Rock. I think he is the most overrated comedy person of all time. I liked him in that one where like he was the white rich guy. That was pretty funny. You didn't hear? Oh my! What? You've never seen that?
I can't say
I don't think I've seen that.
Like he dies and then comes back as like this old rich guy, old rich white guy. You've never seen that?
I can't say I'm familiar. No.
Oh my gosh!
At any rate, in Grown Ups 1, they play this game called Arrow Roulette, where they shoot an arrow straight up in the air and they all stand in a circle, and the last guy to run away wins. And so, in a way, I think that's the same way the teams are sort of going to be drafting around Zach Edey, is like, you may win in the sense that you get a back-to-back National Player of the Year, but you also might get an arrow to the foot, and you might get stuck paying a guy with very little, in my eyes, very little NBA upside or potential, guaranteed money. So that's sort of how I look at Zach Edey. Granted, I'm a little more pessimistic than I think a lot of people are. I think I'm really excited to watch him on the Shanghai Sharks in 5 to 6 years when he inevitably ends up playing some overseas basketball.
No, but 3 to 4 years, if you're a GM, you just can't do that. You can't do 3 to 4 years. 1 or 2 is fine, but not 3 to 4. That's just way too long. Sure.
I want to get back to the portal really quick. You alluded to it a little bit earlier. Luke Goody just hit the portal, and within minutes was already crystal balled to Indiana. How do you see that potentially being a good or a bad fit for the Hoosiers if Luke Goody?
Awesome fit. They need a shooter. I mean, you're going to get someone who is man, like he's going to be like Miller's. If Miller listens to this, he's going to hate me so much. I love Miller Kopp, but he's Miller Kopp with a little bit more spiciness to him. I think from a scoring standpoint, Miller's he's he's a little bland. Ain't nothing wrong with that. Ain't nothing wrong. He could dance a little bit, but I'm talking about just straight like as like a basketball player. Miller is like, yo, give me the ball so I can shoot this three. Right, give me the ball so I can shoot this three. Every now and then he'll do a little something else, but I think Goody is a legit two level player where he can get to the mid range, he can shoot the three, he could give you a little bit more, and I think Mbako needs someone like that to kind of go to work against all year. I think both of them would be perfect for that. And then if they're battling each other, and then Mbako does well enough to go to the next level, Luke Goody's going to be the starting three, after that. So I think that'll be a win-win, but they need a shooting wing. And I said they needed like one who's like over 6'5". I believe Goody's like 6'7". So that's already a good start. And he could shoot the piss out the ball. Like he can shoot the piss out the ball. And he'll be in a situation where he's going to be surrounded by so many good players. Like when you're surrounded by Rice, you're surrounded by Carlisle, you're surrounded by a lob threat in Ballo, you're surrounded by a scorer at Renew or Mbako, whoever's at the four, or whoever's, I'll call it the forward partner, because the 3-4 really doesn't mean much if it's those three guys. So if that's who he's surrounded by, he could excel as the fourth option very, very well. No pressure. And he's just going to be that guy, which he was with Illinois. I feel like he'll play 20, 25 minutes and end up with like 10 points. And you're like, wait, he played today? Right? Like he's just going to just a death by 1,000 cuts, right? He's not going to shotgun you in the face. It's going to be death by 1,000 cuts. He'll hit a three, right? And then a few possessions later, he'll dive on the floor. He'll get a big rebound. He'll take a really hard foul. He'll get a nice putback. He'll get fouled on a loose ball. Next thing you know, he's got 7 points. You're like, wait, what? How that happened? And then he's that under the radar guy. And he adds a different dynamic to that team if he were to go there. He's a you would call him like a low maintenance player. A low maintenance player is like a Klay Thompson type where they don't need a lot of touches. They don't need to take a lot of dribbles to kill you, right? They can not touch the ball for 3 minutes, but back-to-back touches is 6 points for threes. You don't need to run stuff for him. You don't need to always keep him in the back of your mind because he's going to get points dirty or he's going to just be open because now you have guards who can dribble off the bounce and get to the paint. Like, wow, right? It just changes the entire thing. And now you have Carlisle and Rice coming off a pick and roll. You have Ballo rim running, and you got high scoring guards. Like, who are you gonna help off? Right? Like, who's gonna be the help? You're gonna help off Mbako? You're gonna help off Goody? Right? Are you gonna not guard Ballo at the rim where he's just gonna try to tear it down? Like, what do you like? Are you going to stop the ball of the guy who's probably going to be first or second team All Big Ten maybe next year? I mean, you're just adding so many layers of just layers. Like they need that. If they can get that, man, I don't know, man. And I don't like talking into like I'm not trying to boost Indiana or make Hoosier fans feel good because that's the last thing.
I'd like we need some feel good around here.
I always feel good. I think the Big Ten runs through Bloomington.
But I mean, hey, look, high expectations. It's funny how you're going to have fans with high expectations while wanting to fire Woody. Like it's the funniest thing. It's like you want to fire this guy, but you're literally looking at a top 3 team being assembled in the league, and you're like fighting this inner emotion of like what you really want. But if they figure it out, it should be all right. If they get a big time shooter, they're going to be really, really, really good. Then it's just all about. It is about staying healthy, but I think there's so much depth at each position where I don't think it's going to be detrimental, right? Where like losing X was detrimental last year, right? Not having him throughout was really detrimental. And then when you got him back, it was like, who we getting today, right? So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I don't think you need to worry about sort of giving Hoosiers too much optimism. I've got enough in the room for the whole city of Bloomington. I think Indiana is Elijah Malone away from being national championship favorites. Of course, I'm delusional. But that's sort of where I'm at.
Well, I have this thing called Antgorithm. They still don't pass the test unless Mbako really gets to that next level. They still need a pro on the perimeter. And
I'm trying out next week. So.
There you go. Boom. It's over. It's over then. You passed the Antgorithm. Number one Hoosiers.
I have one more quick one. Sorry for taking so much of your time up. So the school up north that we hate talking about, they've done the complete opposite of what Indiana's done. And they have no transfers. They have a couple high school recruits and then like the same starting lineup from last year minus Edey. Do you think that they're going to be right back to where they were? Do you think there's going to be a huge growing pain between freshmen and not having the 7-4 on the floor?
They're going to take a step back, I think. I do also think that Trey Kaufman-Renn is very underrated. I would love to see when he knows he's the man on the court. We saw flashes last year when they relied upon him to like, hey, we need you to score a bit. We saw flashes, and I think rebounding wise, I think he's someone who could probably put up like 16 and 10 or 11 next year. I think his rebounding is crazy, just the way that he pursues the ball and how tough he is. I don't know where they're going to go with his partner, whether it's going to be a Cannon Catchings more skilled at the 4, or you're going to have him at the 4 and go with like a Will Berg. I don't think they're going to go with Jacobson, but like what is that dynamic, right? What's that dynamic? And I still think that they have a cluster at the 2 and the 3 spot. I said it before. They got Lawyer there. They've got Jakari, who's going to be the backup to Braden. But if he's playing well, Painter's not just going to have him sit down. He's going to have him play alongside Smith too, right? So yeah, that. Then you got Miles coming back, and you got Cam Heidi coming back, and they've still got pieces. I mean, when you're returning a first team All Big Ten guard, a Cousy finalist, you're still going to be pretty good. They need some of their freshmen to grow up. I think they need Miles and Cam to take a step ahead, take a step forward for sure. But the on-off for Zach Edey, on and off for Purdue, staggering. So that's a lot to I think Purdue fans are going to get a little humbled next year. I think they're still going to be a tournament team. I still think they're going to be top 5 in the league. That's just what Painter does. But I do see them probably losing somewhere in the second round next year. But if that's a step back after losing National Player of the Year, that's a spot that a lot of teams will love to be in. And without having going portal hunting like crazy every single summer, which is also wild that that's happening. I also wouldn't take a 6-man high school class in this climate. So we'll see who's right on that, whether it's me or him.
So I get a sweep. Awesome.
I would love to see a split. I would love a split. That would be a shame if y'all only went to just one game now because of the new teams.
Mm-hmm.
That would be a
Yeah,
shame.
Yeah.
I think there's no way that happens. The Big Ten can't let Indiana and Purdue play just once, or like Michigan and Michigan State play just once. They got to have those rivalries stay two apiece.
Play once and on Peacock. Peacock 2. Peacock
Oh my
Plus.
goodness!
Peacock Plus. Not even regular Peacock. You're on Peacock Plus today. Super Peacock, where the sub is like double the price.
Yeah.
There is Super Peacock. Yes, there is. Said there's no Super Peacock. Yes, there is. Well, what are you playing? Oh, you're playing Minecraft now?
I never got into Minecraft.
I didn't
I
really
was just
either.
thinking about it.
It's fun once in a while to play though.
It's fun. It's fun with it's fun with my kid. I'm not gonna lie. You know, there's only so many things that you can really do with like a 4-year-old. To like really have fun, you know, where you're both having fun, not just him going to the park and playing with some random kids. You know, we're gonna sneeze all over him and bring it home. But
Amen.
you know, being able to play Minecraft is probably, oh my man, so many life lessons in that game, man. So many life lessons in that game. This
sure.
dude, oh my gosh. We mine like we're like way down there, right? We're like mining with like the cobbled deep slate and all that, right? We're mining away. One day, man, I got like 30 iron ores. I'm like loving it, right?
Thanks, Trey.
I'm turning them all into ingots and all that. And you know, I go to the kitchen, right? I come back. This kid makes like 5 iron helmets. I'm like, why do you have so many iron helmets? He's like, just in case they break. I'm like, no, just because you have resources doesn't mean you do. Like, we just spent the last hour down there fighting creepers and zombie fighters just for you to make 5 iron helmets. He like starts crying. My wife comes up, what's going on? I'm like, he made 5 iron helmets for no reason. We don't even need them. We already have helmets. Why do you make 5? And we can't turn them back into ingots. They're done. We have to put them in the chest forever, for eternity. Sorry, that's my rant. But
No, I couldn't agree more. As somebody who's never played the game, you've convinced me that you should never turn your 30 iron ingots in the iron helmet. Before we wrap up with you here, Ant, this is unrelated to college basketball, but we've been unrelated to college basketball for the last several minutes. So you mentioned Mewtwo and Bulbasaur. Was Pokemon your game? Was that?
I love Pokemon growing up. I had all the holographs. I had a binder. Me and my boy Renell, when we were like 10, we used to go to the corner. We used to take all like the real shitty Pokemon cards. We used to get like Diglett and all the ones that nobody wanted. We used to sell them to these dumb parents for like $3 a piece. We made like $60 one day. It was insane.
Absolutely. That's awesome. That's
Oh, so sweet.
I love that. That's how we're gonna end our time with you today. I think I speak for everybody who's in the room right now and all of our listeners, and I say we have just considered it an absolute privilege to have you on the show today. You've offered some really cool insight, and it's just been awesome. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and we'll be in touch. We'll get you back on another time to talk more about video
anytime.
games.
We'll talk South Park next time. The absolute greatest,
absolutely.
the greatest TV show of all time. Someone DM'd me the other day. He was like, "Why are you always posting South Park clips?" I'm like, "It's in my bio, literally." Literally, it's right. It's been there for years. Like, I randomly post South Park clips because it's the greatest show on the planet.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think that's going to do it for our portion of the show with Ant. And we're going to move into Shot Clock, are we not?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Ant, again for coming on today.
Does Indiana have a shot clock? High school?
No,
they do
do
not.
Get a shot clock, Indiana High School. Get a shot clock.
They need one.
They need
do
one.
No, because then we
Stop
wouldn't
these playoff games that are 7-3 in the fourth quarter.
Well, then we wouldn't have Milan High School in a movie. if there was a shot clock, then whoever was
Yeah,
actually
Ben-
Jimmy Chitwood.
Well, I was gonna say Ben Davis or whoever they played would have ran him out of the gym, but
Oh, it
And
wasn't
that's-
Ben Davis.
No, was it
Was it?
Muncie Central?
I think
oh,
so.
it might have been Muncie. Yeah, it might have been Muncie.
Yeah, because that one guy, didn't he stand there for 4 minutes and 14 seconds? Something like that. That's awesome. That's electric basketball.
Get a shot clock, Indiana. Figure it out. Don't come at me about resources when North Dakota figured it out.
All right. Well, one last time. Thank you, Ant.
Yeah, thank
Thank
you, Ant.
See you guys. Have a good one.
Yeah, usual. All right.
That was fantastic.
That was
awesome.
fantastic.
That was really, really cool. That was my first interaction with Ant, and I can't wait till we get him back on the show. But back to some regularly scheduled flop warning content. We're going to move into my personal favorite segment. You guys know what it is. You love it, I hope. If you don't, that make me sad. But we're going to move into shot clock, where we just get 30 seconds to sort of go on a tangent about anything college basketball that we'd really like to talk about. And Josh, Cole, which one of you guys wants to get us started today?
Honestly, I'll go first. I'll
All
go
right.
first.
All right.
30
Honestly,
seconds.
Josh,
I
we're
got
gonna
the
go first.
I got the stopwatch pulled up here. I'll hand it to Cole.
All right.
All right, give me a countdown.
3, 2, 1, go.
All right, so I kind of just thought about this one while we were talking to Ann. They really need to put some regulations on the transfer portal. All the tampering is crazy. You shouldn't have people entering the transfer portal 3 weeks after the season ended just because some school came in and was like, "Hey, we can offer you $300,000 more than your school's offering you right now." The NCAA needs to put regulations in. Maybe you need contracts. Maybe you need something like that. But this tampering is getting out of hand. The transfer portal is out of hand, and we want to see players at the schools for 2 to 4 years, not just one apiece.
Perfect.
Sure.
Just under 30 seconds.
Absolutely. All right.
I completely agree. If we're
Is that the end of your shot clock?
Yeah,
I
that's it.
completely agree. Cole agrees. That'll do it. All right. Cole, are you ready with your shot clock?
I am ready.
Sweet. Josh is on the timer.
3, 2, 1, go.
This was also in one of my questions to Ant, talking about Michigan and not letting players in. And I actually respect it. I really respect Michigan saying, you know what, we're a prestigious institution. You're not just going to show up here, play basketball, take some knockoff online classes, and have a Michigan degree. If you want to come to Michigan, you have to earn your way in. And it's going to be a little bit of fault of their basketball program, but I actually commend them for putting those standards out there, which no really other school I've seen does.
Absolutely. Yeah. Great point. No,
Yeah.
I love that. I think Ant did a really good job of taking us through that.
I agree with
Yeah,
that. I agree with that too. And also it could be one thing that like slows down the transfer portal a little bit because I mean you got guys that are at 5 schools in 5 years right now. Like how can you possibly have all your credits
Transfer all those
transferred
credits.
and get a degree? Because I mean that's what it's about at the end of the day. If you're in college for 4 or 5 years, I hope you're graduating with a degree.
And he did a great job explaining, which I didn't even think about, how like Shannon and Love did 3 years at their schools, and then they tried to go to Michigan, which would have been their final year. And then that's hard to transfer credits. And then your degree says Michigan when you were there for 1 year, whereas John L. Davis has had 4 years to get his degree at FAU, and then he could just go to Michigan for his, grad program, master's, whatever, but he couldn't get it done. So
Sure.
Elias,
Great
you ready?
points. Dude, I'm always ready.
3,
All right.
2, 1, go.
All right. I know I joke about it a lot and I'm like overly optimistic about Indiana basketball, but truly, I think they are 1, 2, maybe 3 good prospects away from being serious national title contenders. I think we've talked a lot about how Woodson's a good recruiter and not a good coach. Look at what Indiana did when they had their full team on the court last year. They were stellar. And I think if they can secure a commitment from Zach Anderson, from Luke Gooding, maybe from Elijah Malone, this team is a lot closer to being good than I think people realize.
Yeah, it's going to take some hiccups in like November, December, just strictly from a team chemistry standpoint. But I mean, that's
Sure.
what people said about this last year's team, and the talent here is just significantly better across the board. A lot of the teams that took in a ton of transfers this past year were bad, but we saw like teams in the past, like Missouri was like all transfers. They made the second round 2 years ago. Like, I don't know. This Indiana team could definitely be really good.
And Kansas is getting transfers and stuff. No one's really saying, oh, well, Kansas might have some growing pains. They're going to be preseason number 1. So you can always figure it out before the season starts.
Sure. And I think not just that IU has a lot of transfers, but they have transfers that are, addressing some pretty key needs. I mean, people said they needed guard play. They went out and got two of the best available guards in the portal. People are saying, oh, you got to fill Ware's shoes. They got Omar Ballo, who was one of the most dominant centers in his conference last year. And I don't know. I think now you just need shooters. Zach Anderson shot, 45.9% from three last year. You're going to go maybe get a guy like Luke Goody, who, by the way, had to be some tampering there if he picked up a crystal ball within maybe 20 minutes of hitting the portal. That's kind of bizarre to me. And then I'm so high on Elijah Malone, whether or not I should be. Grace College's own, but I'll digress a little bit. We can get into that a little bit more next week when we see how the portal plays out a little bit more over the next 6-7 days. But I think that is going to do it. That's going to be the end of today's show. I think we had a lot of really good conversations. I'm glad we had them. And just one last thank you to our usual guests, Cole Nobby, Josh Bodie, and then Jack Linder in the studio. This has been another episode of The Flop Warning. I hope everyone has a great week, and God bless.